Good morning, students. In the last class, we studied about the different stages of oogenesis. Okay, how it started from the fetal life till its completion, when and where in the body is oogenesis completed. We also talked about the uh, structure of the ovum, the various different stages. Okay, how the fate of the ovarian follicle is occurring from the primary follicle we saw till the mature follicle. Okay, so today we will be starting with the next topic, that is ovarian cycle and fertilization. Now before starting, let's recap what we have studied. We studied that oogenesis is a process of formation of female gamete, okay, and which occurs in ovaries, that is the female gonads, and it consisted of multiplication phase, growth phase, and the maturation phase, where we saw that how the certain cells of the germinal epithelium then forms. Okay, they started mitotically dividing to form the primary oocyte. Then that primary oocyte then undergoed maturation division after the growth one. First meiotic division, then the second meiotic division. Okay, the result of the maturation division in oogenesis. So we saw that they are very different from the spermatogenesis. In the first, there is unequal division. Okay, a last secondary oocyte and a first polar body. Then the secondary oocyte again divide to form a large ooted and a very second smaller body, polar body, and then the ooted grows into a functional haploid ovum. Okay, thus we saw that from one oogonium, one ovum, and three polar bodies. So this ovum is the actual female gamete. Okay, which and the polar body takes no part in the reproduction, hence soon it is degenerated. Now ovum is released from the ovary in the secondary oocyte stage we saw, and then it completes. It's the second meiotic division when it encounters, here you see, a sperm. So here you can see there is a chart given of the oogonia. Then what you have to fill, kindly fill it properly, learn it from NCERT, do all the assignment and follow the video lesson. I am repeatedly telling you this because I am not going to take any of the topic covered through video lesson. Okay, whatever the question is given to you, kindly do it in your note copy. Okay, now menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle is also called ovarian cycle. Okay, and this menstrual cycle involves number of cyclic changes that occur in the ovary and the uterus under the influence of FSH and LH from anterior pituitary. Now this begins at puberty at the age of 10 to 15 years and goes till the age of 45 to 55 years. Now these changes which occur in females, it is about 28 days with ovulation that occurs around at about the middle of the cycle, that is around the 14th day, in which ovum matures and is released from the ovary. Okay, so hence we can say that this ovarian cycle has four phases, that is menstrual phase, follicular phase, ovulation, and luteal phase. Now here you see fate of ovarian follicle during menstrual phase, like the way you studied the follicular stages. Okay, I made you learn in the last class. So in the same way, the development stage of the ovarian follicle, so in the same way the fate of the ovarian follicle, kindly make it a flow chart. Now next, here you see there is part by part the hormone is given here, which is controlled by the here gonadotropins, hypothalamus. Then here it is given the pituitary gonadotropins in the blood. Then here it is given how ovarian cycle, what are the changes occurring. Okay, then what are the changes occurring in the uterus, then what are the ovarian hormones in the blood. So please learn all this because many a times question come from this. Okay, so here you see menstrual flow phase, that is the endometrium breaks down. Then follicular phase, that is endometrium again starts rebuilding, and FSH and estrogen, here you can see, is started increasing. Here you see estrogen one. Then again comes the luteal phase, okay, where in the absence of fertilization, corpus luteum secretes starts secreting progesterone. Then again the progesterone level is high. So in this way the question will come. So kindly read it again. I am saying you kindly read it, okay, from your NCERT book. Now let's start the various phases of the menstrual cycle. Now the first one, menstrual phase, it lasts about 3 to 5 days and is marked by the breaking down of the mucous membrane and the glands from the lining of the uterus. Okay, so the epithelial lining, here you see menstruation. Now this what I was, okay, telling you: uterine event, ovarian hormone levels, ovarian events, and pituitary hormone level. Okay, so this chart you will be learning with this respect. Now the epithelium lining here, connective tissue and the blood vessel gets slashed off, okay, from the endometrium and are discharged as the menstruation. Okay, so in the meanwhile what happens in ovary? Shedding of the inner lining of the uterus. So this is an example which I have given you, how you will be writing this, like follicular phase, what is happening, high level of FSH secreted, then its function is to stimulate follicles, ovulation, then luteal phase. Okay, now menstruation occurs only if the released ovum is not fertilized. Okay, and sometimes lack of menstruation may be due to some other factors also apart from the indicative of pregnancy, like stress, poor health, or effect of some medicine also. Okay, now next is the follicular phase. Now this phase lasts up for about 9 to 10 days, from 5th day to 14th day, okay, till ovulation, and it begins with the repair of the damaged endometrium uterus through proliferation. That means it restores the continuous epithelial lining and repairs the ruptured blood vessel in it. Now you can learn it. After that we can see from the chart, this is the follicular phase. Okay, so here as the ovarian follicle begins to develop, they secrete estrogen. Here you can see the estrogen level is increasing. Okay, now estrogen level gradually starts increasing and reaches maximum about 3 days before ovulation. Okay, and estrogen causes thickening of the endometrium and it becomes richly supplied with blood vessel and endometrium glands. Okay, in the meanwhile here you see FSH is decreased, okay, here, and the LH is increased. Okay, so we can say this one, that both these, the pituitary hormone level, okay, that means this gonadotropin hormone stimulate, okay, the reduced concentration of the ovarian and gonadotropin hormone stimulates the hypothalamus though again to produce GnRH, which activates anterior pituitary to produce gonadotropins. Okay, now next is this one, ovulation. So it lasts for about 12 to 14. This one is the midday because we are taking it 28 days. Now it is induced by the secretion of LH from the anterior pituitary, and so it is also called luteal phase. Okay, now LH along with this FSH, here you can see there is a increase in FSH also. So LH along with FSH stimulates ovulation, that is release of ova, that is secondary oocyte from Graafian follicle, and it is marked by high concentration of both FSH and LH in blood and usually occurs around the middle of the cycle. Okay, now next, both these attain peak level. Here you can see, and LH surge, that is the high peak, means LH leading to the maximum level. Here you can see it induces the rupture of the Graafian follicle, thereby release of the ovum, that is called ovulation. Okay, now the cell of the ruptured Graafian follicle from another structure is called corpus luteum, which is a yellow body in the ovary. Now this corpus luteum, okay, releases the hormone progesterone. Now here you see the progesterone level is being increased, and this causes a number of changes in the uterus. Okay, and now this progesterone is very essential for maintenance of endometrium. Okay, so this now the thickens major changes occurs. Now thickening of the uterine wall will be occurring, means it further grows. Okay, and the uterine wall, then it is becoming ready for the nourishment and anchoring of the blastocyst, if only if the fertilization has taken place. Okay, and this progesterone, here you can see this is high level, it inhibits the proliferation of new ovarian follicles. Okay, so here you see the FSH is now decreasing. Okay, so understood. So progesterone inhibits further maturation of any new follicle, okay, or in fact the ovulation from the ovary. Now if the ovum is not fertilized, then corpus luteum triggers its own degeneration. Here you see regression corpus luteum, and in the absence of fertilization, the rising level of progesterone inhibits the release of GnRH, which in turn inhibits the release of FSH and LH. This we have seen in the hormonal control, which result in degeneration of the corpus luteum, and hence there is again decrease in the level of the progesterone and estrogen. Okay, so at about 28th day, as the progesterone level falls, the blood vessel constrict. It prevents the blood supply to the endometrium, and along with diminished supply to oxygen and nutrients. So all these leads to the breakdown of endometrium along with the blood vessel. And it is the again the beginning, here you can see again the beginning of the menstrual phase. So as the corpus luteum degenerates, it transforms into a white body called corpus albicans. Okay, and then resulting the endometrium begins to break down and uterine contraction increases. Okay, so this all we studied about the phases. So if in case the ovum get fertilized, the corpus luteum keeps growing. Okay, so the level of the progesterone also increases. Now the lining of the endometrium will thicken because it has to provide nourishment. Okay, so and the menstrual cycle will remain suspended during pregnancy. So the blastocyst gets implanted in the uterus if the pregnancy occurs, and it bring about a number of other changes in the body. Okay, so this all we have studied about all the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, or it can be also called ovarian cycle. Now next we will start with the fertilization. Now fertilization, it is a process of fusion of 2 types of gametes, spermatozoa and ovum, and it occurs in ampulo-isthmus junction. Okay, so basically it is the fusion of the sperm nucleus and the egg nucleus, that is the pronucleus, which restore the diploid number of chromosome, and it result in the diploid zygote. Okay, now there are various process, means the stages through which this fertilization process occurs. Okay, first we can say arrival of the sperm and then the arrival of the egg. Now what are these? During coitus, semen is released by the penis into vagina, that is insemination. Okay, so the process of the deposition of the sperm, this one, in the genital tract of the female during copulation is insemination and the inseminated material is semen. Okay, fertilization in human being is internal and usually occurs in the fallopian tube. So during insemination, million of sperm, about 200 to 400 millions, are deposited, but only one will fertilize the ovum. Now the motile sperm swims rapidly till it enters and finally reaches the junction, that is ampulo-isthmus junction, and in the meanwhile, the ovum released by the ovary is also transported. So it is very much necessary that fertilization can only occur if the ovum and the sperm are transported simultaneously to the ampullary isthmus junction. Okay. So the vagina, what happens? The vagina triggers the motility of sperm. Okay, there are the multiple changes which occur to activate the sperm to the final processes of the fertilization. Now the viscous liquid secretion from the cells of the wall of the uterus and the oviduct also, then the viscous liquid secretion from the cells of the oviduct mucus further increases the sperm motility. Okay, now next one is the arrival of the egg. Here the egg is released from ovary during ovulation, roughly in the middle of menstrual cycle, and due to ciliary current it is passed to the oviduct, okay, through the infundibulum. So it reaches the ampulo-isthmus junction part and there it stays there. Okay, so I hope this is clear both. Now the motile sperm swim rapidly through the cervix, okay, enters the uterus and then it reaches there. So next one, this is the first process, arrival of the sperm, then the second we can see. And one more thing, all these involves the changes. Since the female reproductive structure is strongly acidic, so very few number of the sperm can reach the egg. Okay, so though only one sperm fuses with the egg, then secretion from thousands of the sperm are required to dissolve the corona radiata region surrounding the egg. Now we will see the major steps of the fertilization process. Now there are three major steps. First one is penetration of sperm into ovum, which will involve all the major changes, that is the acrosome reaction, cortical reaction, zona reaction, then all these changes which make a sperm active. Okay, that is also called, all these processes is called capacitation of the sperm, and then activation of the ovum, then the fusion. Okay, here you can see all the reaction, all the stages of the sperm entry in the ovum during fertilization, how all the stages are occurring here. Sperm passes through corona radiata, then it fuses with here, okay, this one zona pellucida region, then the acrosome reaction releasing lysine enzyme, then sperm passes through the zona pellucida and reaches the ulima, then how the cortical enzyme this reaction occurs to further check the entry of the other sperm. Okay, so one by one we will be seeing. Now capacitation of sperm. Now on coming in contact with the fluid of the female genital tract, multiple changes occur, okay, that will activate the sperm for the final process. Now the secretion of the female genital tract remove the coating substance deposited on the surface of the sperm, okay, particularly those on the acrosome. Here it is written, this secretion removes coating substances deposited on the surface of the sperm. Okay, and then this phenomenon of the sperm activation is known as capacitation, which takes about 5 to 6 hours. Now the uterine and the fallopian tube fluids wash away the various inhibitory factors that suppresses sperm activity in the male genital tract. So we can say that it is a process, okay, in which the sperm in the female genital tract are made capable of fertilizing the egg by secretion of the female genital tract, and which alters or removes certain molecule deposited on the surface of the sperm. Okay, so sperm also need an alkaline medium in order to be motile. Okay, now next, this is the first one. We are dealing with penetration of the sperm into the ovum. Now as the sperm reaches the ovum, Okay, so it brings about some of the changes. First one is, it is the breaking of the membrane covering the acrosomal region of the sperm. Here you can see, before all this is happening, okay, the fertilizing and anti-fertilizing reaction occurs. Though the compatibility reaction is there, it occurs simultaneously, we can say. So first, acrosome reaction. Now the binding of the sperm to the head, to the receptor, induces the acrosome of the sperm to release is hydrolytic enzyme. Okay, all these release of chemical substances is called sperm lysine from the acrosome, and these are three. Hyaluronidase, it is an enzyme that acts and dissolves the ground substances that binds follicle cell of ovum together and form corona radiata. Okay, next one is corona penetrating enzyme that dissolve corona radiata region, and the other one is zona lysine or acrosin, which dissolves zona pellucida layer which surrounds the oocyte to enable sperm to reach. Now in this, calcium ion plays an important role in acrosome reaction. Other factors are also important, optimum pH and the temperature and all that. Now this compatibility reaction also stimulate the development of outgrowth by the oocyte called fertilization cone or cone of reception. Okay, after this, then this reaction is determined by the special protein which is present over zona pellucida and the sperm surface, and these are called fertilizing in case of egg and anti-fertilizing in case of sperm. Okay, so all the receptor present on the zona pellucida are identified, and then the optimum pH, then magnesium ion, the calcium ion are essential for the fertilization. So here it is written, fertilizing is a glycoprotein which is present on the surface of layer of egg, while anti-fertilizing is another chemical substance on surface layer of cytoplasm of spermatozoa. Now next, what are the changes which occurs in the ovum? Okay, after this, okay, after this acrosome reaction, the sperm head comes in contact with the fertilization cones, which triggers a weak depolarization of the membrane and the calcium ion wave inside the sperm. Okay, so sperm and egg membrane dissolve in the region of the contact. Here you see how these changes are occurring here. Okay, so depolarization of egg membrane is an important one. So when the binding of the sperm to the egg, it induces depolarization, and it is causes fast block to polyspermy. That is, it checks additional sperm from joining the egg plasma membrane. Okay, now next is the cortical reaction. Here, understood? Now the sperm has come in contact with the zona pellucida, acrosome turn inside, then the fertilization cone, then the entry of more of sperm is prevented by whatever the chemical changes are occurring on the surface of the egg. Okay, now next one is the cortical reaction. Okay, first one is the depolarization, that means egg becomes activated and depolarization of its membrane. Next is the egg shows cortical reaction, in which enzyme rich cortical, here you can see there is a, here a word is, a letter is missing, it is modification. Okay, now immediately after the fusion of sperm and egg plasma membrane, the egg shows a cortical reaction, and it also further check the entry of more sperm. In this, the cortical granules which is present beneath the egg plasma membrane, it fuses with the plasma membrane, and then it releases their content between the plasma membrane and zona pellucida. Okay, that means it fuses with the membrane and releases the content, that is the space between the egg membrane and vitelline membrane, which harden the vitelline membrane and changes it to fertilization membrane. Okay, now this serves as a, this one polyspermy, this serves as the barrier. Here you see what vitelline membrane, now called fertilization membrane, this serves as the barrier for the entry of the other sperm. Okay, and this reaction makes the egg impervious to any second sperm and prevent polyspermy, that is entry of more than one sperm into the ovum. Okay, so hardening of this is sometimes also known as zona reaction, where the chemical which is present, it is extruded out from the egg, act on the zona pellucida, and it destroys the sperm receptor, that is thereby it prevents the attachment of any other sperm. Okay, so the phenomenon by which a single sperm fertilizes an egg is called monospermy, and fertilization of egg by more than one sperm or polyspermy is prevented by cortical reaction and zona reaction. Okay, now next is activation of ovum. Now, as the sperm enters the ovum, actually a secondary oocyte, it gets activated and undergoes a second meiotic division. The result of this, secondary oocyte produces a haploid ovum and a polar body, that is a second polar body. Now this polar body ultimately degenerate and ovum contains haploid number of chromosome. Next is fusion of sperm and egg nucleus. Now the fusion of sperm pronucleus and the egg pronucleus restore the diploid number of chromosome, and the single diploid formed is called, cell is called zygote, which contains both paternal and maternal chromosome. Now it is the beginning cell of the multicellular individual. After fertilization, the zygote will undergo the first mitotic division, or we can say the cleavage division. Okay, so we will be seeing it in the next video lecture, the development of an embryo. Okay, how it happens, zygote, how the cleavage division is occurring. Okay, so this is the generalized acrosomal process. Kindly see to it. Sperm makes then contact with egg, what are the physical and the chemical changes occurring. So all these type of question will come. Now do this, this is your homework, do this, keep reading NCERT, keep doing the assignment and follow the video lesson. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you.